That's fine, you can't see that. Okay, so just let me know if there's a problem. So what I'm going to do, I've been working with landscapes quite a while now, just quite a relatively new thing recently. And so what I'm going to do is to demonstrate a landscape today. I prepared the canvas. I always prepare it. So I've actually drawn in the canvas, which you can probably just about see. But in fact, it's I'm going to work into that. It's just to give myself an idea. I quite often I have started to work like this, where I've worked out a small element of the composition. I'm working from this photo above here, which I thought you'd be able to see, but actually I don't know if you can. So this is the photo, and we went to Dorset, and it's a place in Dorset. I'm going to put it here so that you can see it as well. There's I've done a few little sketches, so just to get some feeling of how I'm going to do this, just to get an idea of what I want to do, and just get a feeling of the place. Been there a few times, so I got to know it quite well. There's another one which is a much more sort of abstracted, brightly coloured one, and I don't know if you can see that. So it just gives you an idea. It's not necessarily going to look exactly like this, but we'll carry on. And actually, what I always say is that I don't really know exactly what's going to happen. I know a little bit about what's going to happen, but we're going to take a chance to see what happens, because for me it's very much the journey, the going, the making the marks according to the last mark I've made. So I've put on some texture gel. I expect you all know about the texture gel. This is I've just used sand texture. And it's in places where it will become more evident as we go along, as I work into it. And as I say, I've drawn into it, and I've used a sort of sandy colour as opposed to white. I sometimes use white, just depends. It's just to sort of get rid of the white of the canvas. So the first thing I'm going to do is to start to just build up colours in various big areas. So using acrylics, I've just got to the side here, and I'm going to try and keep the colours quite bright and quite sort of vibrant. And to begin with, it's a little bit like a jigsaw, just sort of filling in a little bit. I'm trying to work sort of quite loosely and lightly as well, because obviously with acrylics you can just keep on building up. Can you see the pictures there? So, blue sky to begin with. We'll see what happens. I'll always use a medium if I need a different material, if I feel like it needs something doing. So I'll make those decisions as I'm going along. Keep it fairly, as I say, I'm keeping it fairly bright, because I'll be able to change and alter it as I go along, just to sort of get a covering here. So working quite sort of fast and in a sort of lively kind of way. Staying with, at the moment, I'm using, let's say, realistic-ish colours, in as much as this blue for the sky and green for the land, but that may very well change at some point. We'll see. Maybe I'll use a slightly darker green down here, and to keep it very light again. And my favourite colour is pink, so I'm going to use a little bit of, part is going to have an element of pinkness in it, we'll see. So I can sort of hear and feel the textures that I put on underneath. I do like wiggly paths, and I take photographs of those all the time. And that reminds me that I like wiggly paths, because I seem to find them everywhere. I simplified some of the shapes. I'm not married to the photograph by any means. I'm really just getting started. The nice thing about acrylics is that you can cover over anything you do that you don't like, so always a good thing. More green. Painting. This is the best bit because you don't have to make any real decisions. The white of the cliffs, so I'll stay with white for that. It's going to be quite important. Quite near, what's it called? Durdle, no. Durdle Door, it's quite near there. I like to scribble. I like to work in this kind of scribbly way, especially to begin with. I might pick out one or two more areas a little bit, so I just might darken this. And this is using a much less realistic colour. I'm going to probably put a tree in there that isn't actually there, but that's, I feel totally happy about just adding in shape if I need it. So I've given myself a bit of a drawing there, and we'll see what happens. So the next thing I'm going to do is something that I've been using a lot, is not just in landscape, but also in some of the other work that I've been doing, some of the more abstract work. I've been using these, I'm quite into neon pens. I've been using neon pens to make line, and so I'm going to actually be rather sort of graphic now, and I'm going to put in some one of these. This is the Posca pen, this acrylic pen, and I'm going to sort of just start to work with some outlining, but outlining that bits of which may not or will not necessarily stay. So the idea is I put them in, doesn't work so well upwards, so I have to keep patting it. The idea is to put the shapes and the colours in, but at some point some of it will go, others may come back in again. So this is just to get myself established, and I do like these neon colours. Anybody that knows me knows that I love pink anyway, so it's a safe deal for me to use pink. I am looking at the picture, I'm watching the shapes of the picture as well, but quite sort of lightly and quite sort of, glancing at the shapes. I've made the path come down a bit differently to how it really is. That's fine. A bit of scribble here never does anybody any harm. I'm going to put in the horizon. So I've sort of now, in a way, I'm showing you in a way what I'd sort of done in pencil, but I gave myself that sort of slight guidelines because I wanted to know where I was going. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start building up some of the areas, maybe with thicker paint. I'll use a bigger brush. I use lots of brushes, change my brushes a lot. I'm going to use I'm going to stay with this bright blue here. See, there's a sort of there are sort of like wispy clouds there. So it might be quite nice to put those in. For me, colour is one of the most, well, probably is the most important thing. I love colour and want to use it in a way that excites me, and it may not necessarily be what I've actually got in front of me, but what I've got from this is the general kind of composition, and as I say, I do love pathways, so I've got that as a sort of a staple, if you like, as a way of getting everything down. Maybe a bit of misty white. I'm keeping it all very free as I can, because in a way the line is quite tight, so it's a good contrast to that. I can always stop for a minute if anybody wants, or a couple of people want to ask questions, so just let me know. The next thing I'm going to use, I've got quite into using these things. They are silicone wedges. They're very nice for putting big areas on. So I'm going to use it down here. You'll see you get a really nice kind of mark. Because obviously with landscape, with anything natural form, you're going to want to have texture. So it's, you can get down a lot of marks quite quickly, and you get this nice kind of, I don't know how to describe it, quite nice kind of textured mark that kind of, you can see it's made my pink orange, so that may come back at some stage. And having worked with this wedge thing down here, I'm going to also work with it up here. I'll come back with it a bit later. How you put the paint on is, as important as the paint itself, I think. I'm picking out some of the shapes so I can see there's a shape that comes down like this. I hope you can see it on the photo. And then there's a sort of rock areas and another shape that's sort of here-ish. So I think I might use another pen, a different colour, sort of an orangey colour. Just kind of get in that shape. Quite like it when it runs down, so that's okay. Sometimes I just use one of these neon colours, and sometimes I'll use more than one. As I've used one there, I'll put another little section in up here. It works better when you work downwards, in fact. You can see how it sort of lifts everything up, the neon. Obviously, the danger is that I don't want to, as I said before, I don't want to outline it. I don't want to, fill it in. I don't want to do a colouring in book. So I've got to be kind of thoughtful about what I do with it. Move forward with a bit more of the green. Now this shape I put in here, I think I'm going to use the sort of quite a brightish kind of yellow because it's quite light here. So I'm looking at this actual shape that I've just kind of drawn in down here, simplifying the shapes a little bit. Not even too worried at the moment about lights and darks. I'm going to see what happens. I'm always changing my brushes over to small and large. I never sort of stint on the brushes. In a sense, I think I'm using the yellow as a light, even though the actuality isn't that it's light. That's the wrong colour there. So I'm trying to keep track of a little bit of light and dark here. see that there's quite a bit of the white, chalky white cliff here, so I'm going to get that in, because this white, in a way, the white and the path on the picture, they do kind of reflect each other. So I think what I will do actually is I'm going to put a little bit more white on here and here, and then I'm going to use a little bit of white up on here on the pathway, but the pathway is going to turn into a sort of a pink colour. So I'm going to put that in so that I know where I'm going with it. I love this wiggliness of paths. Also gives you a sense of the things going back in the landscape. And now I'm going to use a strong pink. This may change, we'll see. I'm always keeping my mind open to changing anything that might not work. So always, the thing about acrylics is that you can do that. That's the great thing about them. Much more difficult to play around with watercolour in that way. Keeping the path fairly flat to begin with, the shape. We'll see what happens to it. It's a very strong pathway through the picture, and just putting a little bit of purple in there just to make it a bit less relentless. Although if I had my way, it would all be pink, so I'll picture that. Just establishing everything more and more. And the good thing with acrylic is that obviously it does dry really quickly, so you can afford to sort of be fairly fast with it and keep moving over, putting things over the top and seeing what you've got. Yeah, it's very hot. I love it. It is a matter of taste, I am aware of that. Of course, the pink and the green are beautiful complementaries, so they push each other away, and it makes my surface of my picture flatter. I'm not saying that it's actually flat, because already we have a sense of going back, so it's not a flat image as such, but when the green's next to the pink, they push each other apart, as complementaries do. Sort of keeping my eye on everything on the picture, but also thinking about where I've got these lovely neon colours. I don't necessarily want to lose them, so they're as important as the reality for me. So I've got quite a lot of texture gel down here. I'm going to see how, I'm going to put a little bit of an even sort of darker green here to begin with and see how it's picking that up. It's not a huge amount. I can feel it maybe more than you can actually see it. I'm trying to keep this lovely flowing line in because it's so much what I like about the place. Keeping lights and darks. Again, I think if you're painting something that's organic, you can be fairly free if you want to be. I'm not sort of interested in being too kind of tight. I want to make an impression of that day. It was so lovely there. It was actually a really lovely sunny day at this photograph. So keeping it a little bit light down the bottom here for the time being. other things may happen. I'm mixing a green. I'm trying to get as many different greens as I can if I'm going to stay a little bit realistic. I haven't made a decision to completely ignore reality, but I mean I could do, but I'm not going to on this occasion. I'm going to stay with a sort of real feel to it. If I see a colour I like, say where we've got these, on the picture you can see where you've got these browny, greeny colours, I can sort of maybe go to orange. It's very bright, is it? Turn the light off, it might be good. It's building up. So where I've got a realistic colour, like brown, orange is a brighter version of that. So I can put it in. I feel free to put it in. And simplifying shapes, so I'm seeing a sort of a triangular bit of shape here, so I'm making it rather triangular, so that I'm simplifying it. And when I send you the video that I'm going to send you, which I'll tell you about afterwards, you'll see there are lots of ways you can do this. I'll try and get my C in. I'm going to use black. I'm going to use quite a dark blue and see what that does. Hopefully we'll push the cliff forward. It may end up being too dark, we'll see. Probably it's going to be too dark, but we'll leave it for now and see what it looks like. Because I've used a little bit of this dark blue, I think I'm going to pop it in somewhere else. It's always a good idea to, if you use one colour, to use it somewhere else in the picture. My paper towel. So a little bit of blue here. Just to build it up and give a sense of lights and darks, and maybe then a sense of sort of 3D-ness-ish. Maybe just here as well. It's always important to paint all around your picture, not to get stuck in one particular place. It allows you to help the viewer's eye to travel around, because you're travelling around basically as well. You get stuck, you find one bit will get made much more important than something else, and you may not want that. My C may go a bit lighter at some point. I can see a nice sort of orangey area here. Oh, that's a clean brush. So here, I've got these little kind of sections of land, but underneath there's a little sort of patch of sort of, I suppose it's yellowy, gorsey kind of colour. So I'm going to get that in. Sort of building it up. It's as if I'm doing, it looks a bit like I'm doing a jigsaw, but I'm not. I'm making decisions according to the last mark that I've made. until I have to make the final decisions as well. Build up some of my greens down here. Trying to paint in a direction, a horizontal kind of, well, slightly diagonal because it's a hill, direction to show that, just with the marks that I'm making. The great thing about acrylics is that you can paint from white over black if you want to. It'll be fine. I'll come back with my pink pen again. Get back some of these lines. Then I get them coming in and out, really. Sort of refine that shape a little bit as well, up there. It's a bit narrower. Tapping is trying to get the ink to go down into the nib. Now, I think actually I'm going to just come back with the orangey one because of the pink part. I think it could do with a bit of orange inserted. Just to lift it up a bit. Well. Here I'm going to use some acrylic ink, which I expect most of you know about. It'll probably drip down, but I'll take a chance. I'm going to use the pipette. It's dripping down. I won't overdo it because we'll get drips everywhere. Start to work with more green again here. I'm keeping the shapes simple, trying to anyway. In this green here, so I'm starting to get the feeling of the form of the landscape and the feel of the land itself. So I feel like this rock is curving around. So when I think there's a curve, I'll paint with a curve. I'm starting at the wrong bit down here. Make that darker, quite a lot darker. Love this titanium buff colour as well. And to make that white seem brighter, I'm darkening next to it. I'm going to use purple as a dark as opposed to the brown. So it's the same idea of using a colour that's a little bit close to the reality of the colour, but not the actual colour. So you start to get a sense of the rocks going backwards and forwards and so on. I can see that it would help to have a bit of purple here. Now at my sea, and I think as I suspected, it's a bit too dark, so I'm going to lighten it again and see what that does. It doesn't feel quite right. A bit too dark. As if we have to see this colour. We don't really, do we? But I don't mind. It's probably wishful thinking. So all the time I'm leaving little bits of my neon in. I don't want the neon line to be outlining completely. Yes. Somebody's left a message.
Yeah, what they want to put it down.
Do you want me to say now? Have a quick look at it now? Yeah, my trusty assistant is going to do that for me. Oh yeah, it does. You're right. The pink in the front does look like a big bird. I think I need to deal with that, don't I? You're quite right. So what I'm thinking is that perhaps I should make the path a little bit less bulbous. So I think what I'll do actually, I'll draw with another of my pens, a green pen, to get a line. And I think you're right. I think it should actually curve around a bit more like a path should, and do something like that, so I know more where I am. Is that better? So I think I will. Good, thank you for that piece of advice. And I'm going to slice off a bit of the pink there, much as it hurts me to do it, and get some green down there. I think I'll use my my nice wedge. Got carried away with my pink. I hope that's better. Little bits of the pink coming through, that's okay. Again, the pink is obviously the unification of the whole painting itself. And I'm going to use this for my yellow down the bottom here. I'm going to put in some, I'm going to put in some more shapes in a minute. Get a lovely texture, don't you, with this thing, this wedge thing. They come with all sorts of different edges as well. You can get sort of zigzaggy ones and jagged ones and curvy ones. More logical shape now. And maybe coming back with my pen again. So keeping the shapes that matter to me. I'll work inside that little side path here so that I can differentiate between the two little bits. To define the path, the little offshoot of the path there. While I'm doing it, I'm always seeing new things all the time. So as I'm at a little bit, I keep thinking about, well, what can I add in? So I'm seeing that there's a nice little shape there. There's obviously something to do with the pathway. Building up my pink. I'm trying to sort of get these nice negative shapes as well. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce a tree. I think just here, there isn't actually a tree there, but I want to put one in. So I'm going to use my Harrow ink. So I've got some acrylic inks here. Hopefully it will draw okay. And I'm using a new pen.
Mum, there's a cup of tea behind you.
And I've got a picture of a tree to follow. I can find it just here. So I'm just going to use this. I'm going to insert this little tree here. So I want to just make an edge that will define the tree. It's not going to work. I have to use my other pen. I'm going to use it as lightly as I can, this pen. This is the same Posca pen as before. But I like to sort of just have a flowing shape. And I'm going to sort of abstract it really. I'm simplifying it as well. These things don't work quite so well upwards, like I was saying before, so I have to keep banging it down. Add a little bit of colour in there, just to define it a little bit more. Using the purple as well, so that works out sort of quite well. But I'm going to actually lighten above it so that the tree comes a little bit more, standing a little bit more forward. So I'm going to work just around the edge of it a little bit. Again, I'm just making decisions as I'm going along. I'm not really planning too much. And then here there's some sort of foliage and such like. So I'm going to again use my wedge shape. I'm going to use a sort of a very dark sort of green. I'm going to paint it onto the edge because I'll get a better line. And this is a good way to, you can use a bit of card as well. This is a good way to create some sort of foliage, but I seem to need to keep replacing the colour. If it runs out, I just have to put some more in. It's all impressions, really. I think I need to refine some of my shapes up here and to draw a little bit more into them. Again, I think I'll use that very dark green I was just using, and just to give myself some more shapes. So again, simplifying the shapes. losing my place. Check where I am. So going with some of the tones as well that are actually there, so that you get the feeling of that kind of curving of the landscape. Just trying to build up the brightness of the colours as well. So you gradually lose them a little bit. Bit of grass, a little bit of foliage on the path. Again, that lovely pink and green together. Feeling that my sea is a little bit dark still, so I think I'm going to lighten that again. Don't want it to be the same colour as the sky, particularly. Similar. They are related. And I'm going to come back with a little bit more pink into the path, because I'm losing a little bit of maybe some more line. So the pathway is making a really lovely kind of ridge shape, really. Dividing up the rectangle a little bit. these colours in. I spend a lot of time on my pink. So as I say, all the time I'm seeing things I like or don't like. I'm not liking this area very much here, so I'm going to maybe add in a little bit more, a sort of very light green, just to enliven that area a bit. I think it's that I don't like. That's nearly gone. You see all the curves all the time as well, so trying to get the feeling of the cliff. And I'm going to what I'm going to do, which is something I like to do, I'm going to have a go anyway. I do like pattern, and so I'm going to do a tiny bit of printing. I'm going to imply some flowery shapes, and I'm going to use a triangle. And I'm going to use, I think I'm going to use what colour I'm going to use. I'm going to use a very light green, so that it doesn't show up too much. But it's a children's brick with funky foam on. I've got that funky foam stuff. You literally just stick it onto the brick. I've stuck on a triangle, and as you know, I'm a printmaker, so I do like printing as well. So I'm going to make this a very, very light, limey kind of green. Put it on, and hopefully get these nice triangles. I love my pattern. Light green down here. I'm going to use it up here as well. I'm not going to print with it, but I'll use the same colour. Almost finally, I'm going to just do a little bit more printing of these leafy shapes down here, because it takes a while to build them up. I keep wanting to keep the shapes quite simple, with an element of information. And then finally, just a little bit of more of my pen, if it will still draw upside down, just to get a few bits of that colour in again. It might be easier just to use my tiny brush. You can see it's the pink that's sort of unifying as much as I can. Paintings take a long time to do, so when I'm doing them quickly, I have to find quick ways around. I keep seeing things, so that needs to get narrower as it goes along. Okay, I don't know how, I hope you can see it okay. I think that's where I'm going to stop. Can you share the screen again? And we can talk about some questions if you would like. Hello.
Oh, right. Laura, that was really good. Excellent.
Oh, good. So hang on. Just going to turn the camera so you can see me. And I can hold this up as well. You can see it okay, I hope?
Yes, yeah.
It looked very pale on my screen, but can you? Oh, I've got the right way. Sorry, it's that way. So yes, so you can sort of see it fairly easy. Now, I mean, the thing is, I mean, did any of you sort of think of any questions? I should next time. I'll have to make sure you can do that. But any questions at all?
Laura, can we take a screenshot of you?
Of course, yeah, of course.
Yeah?
Me or the painting?
A bit of both. Either
There I am.
one of each would be good.
Can I take one of my... Oh, I don't know if I can.
Steve will take one. He can send it.
I can... Oh.
That'd be
You
good.
can send one. So what I was going to say to you was that I've offered to. Hopefully you'll like this. I've been doing lots of videos with my teaching, and I've got a sort of actually there's 2 videos that are on. It's not on those. Some of them are on the public YouTube, but this is not. This is a private YouTube. I'll send you the link or somebody the link. And it's really about abstracting landscape in many, many different ways. But in fact, you could use any of those techniques to use for other subjects. So, I mean, if you would like to look at those, then please do. They come in 2 separate videos. They're about 20 minutes altogether, 25 minutes altogether, and you can have a go at different ideas. It might get you all painting again. So hopefully that will be useful for you. Any questions at all, or did I baffle you all with pink? Yes.
Well, excuse me, this is Angela. Yeah?
Yes.
Will we all be able to get a chance to see those 2 videos?
Yes, I'll send them. Shall I send them to Cookie?
Well, if you send them to me, I can put them on our site.
Yes, if I can just get your email address and I'll send you the link.
Okay.
And then you can just pass it on. It's free to pass on, so everyone can have a look. Everyone can have that.
Okay.
That's probably the easiest. If you just send me an email with your email address, and I'll send it on.
Yes,
after
we can
finish.
get them put up on our website if everyone agrees.
Of course, yeah, no, absolutely. If you'd like to, I mean, it's quite a long, it's quite a lot for you to have a go at. I can see some who may.
Yeah, no, I was going to say that would probably be harder to do. I mean, I use ink and charcoal for my life studies, but I use a lot of oils.
Yes.
That would be harder to do. There'd be other ways of using oils if you were going to abstract in that respect.
Yeah, I mean, the only reason. Yes, I mean, I use acrylics because they dry quickly.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be hard to do something as probably as many layers with oil, because up to a point you can use oils and then they run into each other. I mean, when I used to do oils, I still do, even with acrylics, I do more than one painting at a time, so that one dries while I'm working on the next one. But I mean, a lot of it is about the abstraction of the shapes and the simplicity of the shapes, and I've just used colours that I like and printed and done other things. You can do all that with oils, I think, all of that.
Yeah, well, maybe not drawing over with an acrylic pen.
No, I mean, I suppose you could do that first, because the oils will go over the acrylic pen. So you could do that before if you do anything acrylic first, then the oils will go over it, but not the other way around.
Yes, yeah.
You could lay in your picture in the way you did, Laura, just with acrylics and then work on top with oils, couldn't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's what I mean. You absolutely could. So, that's really a nice way to work as well. I mean, I would spend a lot of time taking stuff off and putting it on. I've got some others to show you, actually. Hold on, I'm just going to get those. Yes.
Before you go, just a very quick question about the Posca pen. Does the end of the pen get snarled up with the paint? Because
it's not too bad. I dip it in the water after a while, and then you have to be careful. To be honest, working upwards with them is more difficult because it doesn't come out, so it does flop it up a little bit. But when I work downwards, it just keeps on getting wetter and wetter, so that it'll be okay. I mean, I use them up quite quickly, but that's what's so nice about these pens is they're not like other sorts of pens. They're not like
spirit based.
No, they're water-based. They're water-based, but they've got, I suppose there's liquid acrylic in the body of the pen. But if you use other sorts of wet pens, like I'm trying to think of the Sharpie, then the nibs are ruined straight away with the acrylic.
Also the Tombow. I mean, I'm spending. I don't know how much your Posca pens are, but these Tombows are ever so. They're over £3, and if I'm using them with other media, what happens is this dries out so quickly.
Yeah.
And also, if you're using very absorbent watercolour paper, which sounds a bit of a ridiculous thing because that's what they're supposed to be for, they suck up the colour very quickly. They don't last long.
Is that watercolour pen or is it acrylic?
No, it's watercolour and it's acid free.
Oh yes, I know those. Yeah, I mean that is
two-ended.
Yeah, I've got those as well. Yeah, those are not as adaptable. These ones are, they're like, I guess they've got the acrylic that's in here inside the pen.
Okay.
And I would recommend them because you can use them for different sorts of materials. You can use them over. I mean, eventually, if they go a bit kind of stiff on the top, I just sit them in water for a little while. Mostly, they'll be okay.
And so if you make a line with them on, I don't know, just say paper or canvas, can you spread them with? Do they spread out like a watercolour pen?
If you want them to, yes. Yes, you can do both. I think they're very adaptable. I think they're very, they're very kind of, like all acrylics, they're very friendly. Is there a question there?
Okay, thanks.
Friendly.
Yeah, they're very friendly.
Laura, could
Yes.
I ask you which artists have influenced you?
Wow, that's a good question. Everybody knows I love Barbara Ray. I mean, I obviously do like Matisse. I just like colourists really because colour for me is the most exciting thing of everything, yes, I mean, lots of contemporary. Sorry?
Do you like Hockney?
I like Hockney, yes. I mean,
bright colours.
Yeah, it's hard not to like Hockney, isn't it? Really?
Impossible.
Yes.
Like a Graham Sutherland, actually, to me. Some of his Welsh landscapes.
I do like him as well, actually, as you mentioned him. And because I'm a screen printer, I use a lot of colour with screen printing, and I have different influences, I think, because working with the screen is different to painting with a brush, and so that I adapt my styles very different, I think, with acrylic, with screen printing. So I'm a little bit of a kind of as somebody once said to me, I'm a bit like a dog running around in a field, little puppy. But colour, anybody with colour is what I look at and I'm attracted to.
Can I ask a question?
Of course.
I normally paint with watercolours, and I haven't tried acrylic as such, but when you paint, do you actually dilute? Sometimes you dilute acrylic with water?
Yes, I'll either dilute the acrylic with water, or I will use the acrylic inks, which are these, which I showed you before, which are like, they act a bit like watercolour, but they're a bit more friendly than, you can work in them exactly like we do with watercolour, but they're a little bit easier to use, I suppose. But then you don't get the effect that you have with watercolour is hard to get with anything other than watercolour. But if you're used to working with watercolour, you can easily use acrylics thin. I think the advantage of acrylic is that if you're going to use it very thin, then perhaps you might as well use watercolour. But if you can use a combination of thicker and thin areas, then you're getting the most out of the acrylics, really. You'll see on this video that I send, I think there's lots of different ways to use different materials as well, which will help.
Can you actually start off in watercolor and then go over certain areas with acrylic as well to make it more brilliant?
Yes, I do that quite a lot, actually. Not on a canvas, but on paper.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Thank you.
And let me just show you I'm going to show you a couple of landscapes and also some very new ones, which I thought I'd just show you because I've just done these. So this is one that's obviously taken. Can you see this?
A little bit further to the right.
actually it's to the left, isn't it, for me?
That's
so
it.
you can see.
Yeah.
So that's, you can see it's got the style. That's the kind of style I've been working in. But I've been kind of working and changing it quite a lot. But I've also been working in quite abstract way as well, which is also using these pens, which is why I'm showing them to you. Now, I don't know if you can see that.
Oh, that's interesting.
Great, yes, yeah. That's lovely.
But actually, if you go back to speaker view, you'll be able to see it more easily. That's a good idea. Good idea. Hang on. So there you go. So you can see it. So I can't hold it.
Yeah, it's really good.
I'm quite excited by these. I think you can see that they've got elements of similarity because of using these pens. And this is on watercolour paper, actually. So that's another one. So you can see, I can't remember who it was who was saying about the watercolour, but can you see I've used watercolour under there?
Mm.
Yes.
And this one probably got more covered, the watercolour itself.
Oh, that's nice.
But you can see that, that I just want to say that actually what I'm going to send you and using these pens, they're adaptable for all sorts of, can't hold it straight, they're adaptable for all sorts of mediums, all sorts of subject matter rather. My trusty assistant is now holding it up for me.
Where do you buy them from, Laura?
I just got them online actually. You can get them some of them I got at Amazon. From Amazon, some of them I get from Jackson's. You can get them everywhere. I did buy a set of these luminous ones. It was cheaper to buy them. Don't buy anything like this in Smith's. They're much more expensive. So yeah,
They're the luminous ones.
Yeah, I've got all different colours. I mean, you can get them in every colour imaginable.
Right.
So,
Can you use them on glass?
I think you might be able to. I'm not 100%. Let me see. You might be able to, yeah. On your glass, yeah. But you can use Sharpies on glass, I think.
I think you can.
Mm.
Is that what you meant by neon pens, you said?
Yes, they're this luminous colour.
Mm.
So the neon is the colour, so they're like, I use neon colours as well as the pens. But they come in, ordinary colours as well. And they come in different widths as well. You can get skinny ones, and I've got really fat ones that make about an inch mark. They're big. And they're exactly the same. They've got the ink inside the body of the pen, and it comes out. It's like a square nib, really. I should have brought those down to show you. But so I should have actually used them because it would be useful for big areas of the landscape. But these things are good as well, actually. These wedge things.
What's their official name?
I think they're called silicone wedges or something.
Okay.
I think they come with, you can get them with teeth, with wiggly edges and things. I think I got these from Jackson's. It's expensive being a mixed media artist.
What's the name of those luminous ink pens?
They're different makes. These are Posca, Posca. There are other people that make them, like Liquitex make them as well. I think Cass Arts have the Liquitex ones. They're nice as well. They do some. These have got round, like bullet ends, but you can get them with square ends as well. If you just Google acrylic pens, probably quite a lot will come up.
Thanks.
Thank goodness for Google and Amazon. Any more questions? Come off.
Can't think of anything now.
So how do you see yourself going forward, Laura?
Oh, that's really a good question. I'm exhausted. I don't know about you. I'm exhausted myself. I don't know. I mean, I'm doing a lot of printing. I didn't print for a long time, since last year, because it didn't feel like, I didn't have the screens ready, and then I've got a problem with the screens. But now I've found a way to get my screens done. So I'll definitely be carrying on doing more printmaking. But the landscape thing is quite sort of trapping me a bit. I'm liking it, even if it becomes even more kind of abstract, like those last ones.
Actually, it's quite. What interests me about your work is that you've gone from abstract to sort of more figuratively landscape. And I saw some of your work, I thought, oh my goodness, look, she's gone all sort of figuratively landscape.
I know.
But still not quite abstract as it used to be.
It's a very weird.
Now it's going back. So it's going backwards and forwards.
It is. But I think my biggest thought is about being able to. I don't want to jump around. I joke about jumping around, but I don't want to be 6 different artists. I'm sure you know what I mean. So different materials and different mediums make you do different things. But I'm trying to.
I don't think it matters. I mean, quite honestly, if you started putting figures in your landscape, it wouldn't surprise me.
Actually, I have got the odd figure has arrived in 1 or 2 of them that I've done, which, but they're very kind of, hidden.
Well, it must be quite confusing initially. You're veering from one to the other, the reality to.
I quite like that though, because one of the things about painting that I like is problem solving. So, I don't want to paint what I already know. I want to paint what comes to the next thing in my head, really. And I think I don't want to. I'll stay with something like landscape, but in a year's time, I may end up going back to objects again. So I as soon as I feel that I'm not challenging myself, I'll kind of find another way forward. And there are certain staples like the colour, so that's absolutely the 100% staple of everything that I do, which is about colour, I think. And I would say that if you asked me what my work was about, I would say top of the list is colour, really, even if the subject matter is different. So, when I'm deciding on those bright colours, it's because I like the colours more than necessarily want to paint a landscape. I'm more interested in the shapes that I'm seeing, and I'm making it. As I'm making it more evident, because I'm using landscape colours. At some point, I think they'll change and perhaps not become landscapes. But I don't want not become landscape colour. But I don't want that to be self-conscious. Do you know what I mean? I think that looks like an exercise then. So
I've got a burning question here. In fact,
I can't marry you, Cheryl.
I know, I'm already married. I know, I love your work.
I know.
Yes. What just sprung to mind when you said about the colour and how much you love the colour, and that's absolutely obvious, is have you ever thought of going totally beyond the imagery and going, say, like Ellsworth Kelly? I mean, like, blocks of colour and shape, and that's it. So
I have thought about that.
Completely into your pink zone.
Yes,
I see you going pink.
I have thought about that, and I have an issue with that, because if I were to think about that wouldn't feel like I was doing enough. So there's a bit of a kind of complication in my head that needs there to be some route, that it isn't going to ever just be about colour. Do you know what I mean? So it matters that the content for me isn't just the colour, I suppose. I know exactly what you mean. I've thought about, the idea of systems and colours and Bridget Wright, all those people that work with colour and what colours do. And I think I do play around with colour to see what they'll do, but it's always hitched, it's always attached to something that's in my memory or my thoughts or my eyes, really.
So interesting.
Just finish that thought off. Somebody like Ellsworth Kelly actually started it all came from what he'd seen, his drawings, and just even the shapes of, the shape canvases and things.
I tell you what, I would love to be an artist that could do that. I might get there when I'm 90.
Yeah, I think you might.
I thought Cheryl was going to say, had you ever thought of going beyond colour? But today I went beyond colour because I painted along with you, and I've never done it before in these colours.
Okay.
Can I just show you?
Yeah, please do.
I don't know if you can see it.
I can. Oh, well done. Yeah, I love that.
I've never done it
painted
before.
with colour like that before.
I've never had orange and pink in my landscape.
And,
Thank you.
You're welcome. I just love pink so much. It's just my favourite colour in the whole world. So I do have to, as I've just spilled it all over the floor, my husband's just told me.
Oh.
But I think it's something about, I mean, this painting is very much about, the two green and red complementaries, isn't it, really? It's about, and it's about the shapes that are sitting on, like this pink that sits on the green background. And you could almost say that if I were to do this again, I could literally make these shapes completely flat with that. And the video that I've done, I've given that as an example, actually, how you can simplify and simplify more and more until you end up with, the thing that you're most interested in, which for me is the pathway. Do you know what I mean? So that could be the picture that I end up with after 6 paintings.
But will you do some more work on this painting?
I mean, I might do. It's hard. I mean, like I say, I do spend a lot of time on them. I wasn't seeing it completely from the front because obviously I had to be to the side. Yes, I might do. I think I probably will see things once I look at it again. And yeah, possibly. But I wouldn't say I would do that much to it. I might do kind of more refining things. I might look at, I like how these lines have come down and they weren't really intended, but it could be that I'll do more of those so that they are something about mark making and not about the image, about the original image, if you see what I mean. So it's a bit like what Tara was saying about going completely towards about what it's the vision of the colour rather than the vision of the place that I've done it from, if you see what I mean. Maybe.
When the big pink bird appeared to me,
I know.
And I put the chat line. I'm sorry. I hope I didn't.
No, it was very helpful because I couldn't quite see it, because I'm looking to the side of it.
Yeah, that's right.
The reason I did it was
changed. You could have left it, and you could have done a theme on that one.
I could have made it into something totally different, couldn't I?
That's right.
I didn't think I ought to get started on that because, bearing in mind the time difference. But I'm glad I did that actually because it gave me a chance to put these triangles down the bottom.
Right.
What were the triangles again?
Well, I suppose they're really about. Let me show you one other picture actually, just to show you. This is my garden. We've got a willow in the garden. So I suppose it's more about. I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah.
See the little. So I suppose it's more about the action of printing the shapes and some sort of reference to natural form maybe, but more about the picture than anything else. And I think it sort of makes another surface, it makes another, it kind of, they sit and hover over the surface. And if I was painting that more realistically, I could have invented some yellow flowers, do you know what I mean? So I don't think I want them necessarily to be anything, except that they do relate to the landscape because I've used those landscapey colours.
I just thought they looked like sacred stones.
Maybe, who knows? I do love those actually.
Yeah, there you go.
We have known each other a long time, haven't we?
No. I thought you were in your sort of mythological stone zone.
Yeah, exactly. That was a while ago, that period. But it may return, you never know.
You never know.
I just don't like the idea of being self-conscious about, not self-conscious personally, but self-conscious making a painting in a self-conscious way. So I do like it to kind of grow. And probably if I was painting that without, not as a demonstration, I wouldn't have started with quite so much detail. But obviously, I needed to do that in order to get a long way. And I will let my paintings kind of just sort of grow out of a sort of a seed. And I do like that. I think they work the best like that. So it's about finding those things in your head. And having the landscape, I got inspired by that distant landscape that we don't see here at all, do we, in London? I mean, and I'm always excited when I see that. I know with Roy as well, in your Norfolk place, it's so different to what we see. And I see those big shapes, and then I get excited. So, yeah, I might have to move. I haven't told Steve yet.
Don't move without us.
I love the way you build your picture, with the way you do your outline first and then add colour and then change the colours according to how the mood is going. I think that's wonderful. I've learned a lot.
Like it. It's quite organic. I think it needs to be an organic progression of marks, you know. I'm not actually I'm not interested at all in making something look like my photograph because I don't need to. I've got the photograph, so you know. So it's about seeing, you know, if I take my photo, it's about seeing, you know, if you turn it upside down, it's so obvious why I've taken the photo because I've seen what I like. And they always say you should always. I used to take I always have taken loads of photos, and when I look at them, they tell me what I was looking at. You know, and I think it's a sort of you know, an interactive thing that happens.
Great.
Any other questions for Laura? Anybody else asking? Come on.
So I will send you the links to those videos, and I hope you can do something with them. You can always send me pictures if you want to have a look. But it's a whole workshop. It should keep. If you're feeling like you're ready to go back to painting, then this could be the time to do it, just to get you started. And they're definitely kind of they are little progressions of abstraction as well. So I've called it how abstract do you want to go. So I've always said to people in my classes, and forgive me if people in my classes, anyone's here that's been in them, you can't be a little bit pregnant, but you can be a little bit abstract. So, you know, that's the idea. So you'll see that, you know, you can take it as far as you want and be playful with it, I think. I think that's the thing as well, is that painting for me is very serious, but it's also very playful.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. It's very stimulating.
You may?
Yeah, just want to make an observation.
Yes.
You won't know this because Ashima did hers 2 weeks ago, and it was a doodle art. And I think it's quite connective, actually, because it's all about shapes, repetitive, the unconscious, bringing it up.
Absolutely.
What to know, what to leave in, what to put out. Yeah. And so it's quite nice. We've had both of you, and it's come together. I think that's... I mean,
definitely these ones were that. You know, they were definitely started off. I didn't know what I was going to do with them, but they definitely grew and became about, you know, pots or shapes, and then eventually, and about pattern, and eventually about, you know, being these little elements of plants that I put in that made them what they were at the end, really. So there's no kind of rule that says you have to know what you're going to do before you start, or vice versa. I think it's what feels right for you, isn't it? Really?
Yes, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Have you exhibited those particular ones?
I only did them last week, so they're hot off the press.
Oh, good! You can put them in our exhibition.
I'm doing it in the studio, so you're all very welcome to come and visit me. When we do it.
Have you made a decision when you're going to be open?
Oh, I can't decide. I might need to talk to you about it.
Yeah, I think I'm deciding to do. Well, I'll talk to you.
Yeah.
Because actually, Boris, I think it's just he's given the 21st of June as being the day everybody can go out and do anything. So it's like curtains.
Yeah, good thinking.
So I'm thinking doing that weekend, the Friday, because I don't know if anybody will come on a Friday, but Friday, Saturday, Sunday, just doing those 3 days and seeing how it goes.
I think that's a really good idea. It'd be quite good. I did ask I saw people that are nearby doing it at a similar time because it makes sense, doesn't it? Really.
I'll email you the dates. You have a look, and then we can talk on the phone about it.
Okay, lovely.
Great.
I'm opening. Actually, I'm risking opening before, but it'll be Friday. I'm doing 4 Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Right.
Over the whole of June.
So June. I think June is probably a better bet than July myself.
We have an exhibition in July.
Well, you don't know what's going to happen in July. I mean, you live in hope, but I mean,
I know.
People might kind of get weird again. So.
I know. Absolutely. You just don't know. Well. But you'll know. We'll work. I'll do it at the same time as you. I think it makes sense. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Okay. So lovely to see you all.
Yeah, that was really good, Laura.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much.
We had a lovely time, and I'll send everything.
Excellent.
I'll send a picture of the picture as well, if you like, so you can have that as well.
Yeah, we'd like that.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Have a nice weekend.
Bye. Thank you.